We're talking to Professor Rommel Banlaoi. He's the president of the Philippine Society for International Security Studies and director of the Philippines-China Studies Center. Good afternoon, Professor. Can you hear me?
Hi,
Yes, good
Professor.
afternoon, Reggie, Ed, and Ma'am Ami. Good afternoon
Hi,
to the
Prof.
three of you.
Good to hear from you
Good
again.
Good.
afternoon,
Oh, good to have you on the show again.
Opo.
I wanted to start, Professor, from from a bird's eye perspective, and have you define how you see Philippines-China relations under this Marcos administration, because we haven't spoken to you in a long time as well. So I don't think I've asked you this question. But it's been 4 years, nearly 4 years of Bongbong Marcos's administration. How would you define our relations with China at this point?
Well, we have reached the rock bottom of our bilateral relationship with China under the Marcos Jr. administration. During the previous government of Noynoy Aquino, I described our relationship with China as we reached the lowest moment, but now this is the rock bottom because this is one of the worst bilateral, worst relationship with China under under various administrations.
Worse
We've
than
seen the stronger actions from China and also a stronger reaction from the Philippines.
Worse than when in than the administration of former President Noynoy Aquino when he took them to court.
Yes, we experienced the lowest moment. Okay? But now we are experiencing the rock bottom of our relationship. I consider this as the first part in our bilateral ties with China.
What I understood from you was you referred to stronger actions from China resulting in stronger reactions from the Philippines. Let me just put it this way. So sino po yung may kasalanan dito? Sino talaga yung pasimuno dun sa away na to?
Well, mahirap mag-judge, ano? But apparently, both parties are hardening their position. And for me, if
Yeah.
the two parties are hardening their positions on the disputed issues, then it's very difficult to make a peaceful settlement. So that's my observation. So both parties. So somehow both parties need to find ways to meet halfway, because if they will continue this hardening of positions, then just expect this action and reaction cycle to happen all over again. You know.
Professor,
It will be
I
a vicious
think that's
cycle, yeah.
exactly what the two sides are now trying to do.
Yes, that's
Nag-aano
right.
sila eh.
That's
Yeah,
right, because
I talked to the Chinese ambassador eh. Sabi niya,
yeah, they had a
although
meeting in Cebu.
hindi siya nagsabi ha, ang sabi ng Malacanang, the president will not will support the positions of the government, no? Yung mga sinasabi nila
Of course.
but at the same time, sinabi sa akin ng Chinese ambassador, he has actually met several times already in private with the president. At I think it's significant na may pinangalanan ng DFA na spokesman for maritime affairs. No, gusto ko nga tanungin ko ano magiging impact niyan sa role ni Commodore Tariela as Coast Guard. And you're right, parehong nag-harden yung ano. Pero I think both sides are also trying to reach out at this point, ha? Kasi bagong-bago tong ambassador eh. At this point, I think yun ang
Yes.
ginagawa nila ngayon.
That's right. That's why I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, because
Yes.
there is now an effort on the part of the Philippine government to also reach out with China and now opening discussions with China. And China is also opening its channels of communication with the Philippine government to sort things out. So that's a good sign.
What is your read of this new Chinese ambassador, Ambassador Jing Huan? Of course, he's an old U.S. hand, right? He
Yes.
spent a long time in Washington D.C. And what does it say about the relationship that China decides to send him to the Philippines at this point in time?
Well, I met him already, and during our discussion, he put in his highest priority the issue of the South China Sea dispute and how to manage Philippines-China dispute in the South China Sea and find ways to cooperate rather than compete in the South China Sea. So that's and my understanding of him is that he's very young. He's a very young diplomat, and as a young diplomat, he just graduated from Tsinghua University. So he's prepared to deal with difficulties in the Philippines. He's ready. He's ready to deal all kinds of difficulties he might encounter in the Philippines.
Sorry,
Hindi man siya
Prof.
napakayang. He's actually 50 plus na. Saka he spent 23 years in Washington.
Yeah. More
In
than
Yeah,
various
50 years old. Yeah,
positions.
50
Saka
years
sabi
old.
niya sa amin, nung daw in his 23 years, 2 times under Trump,
Yeah.
ang dami-dami na niyang pinagdaanan ng mga problema, sinasanction sila, pinipersona non grata.
Correct.
And he's used to all this tension
Yeah.
actually.
So
Kaya
that's-
lang it helps, I think, that he speaks English fluently, no? Kaya nakukuha niya yung nuancing ng
Very
mga
much.
messages.
Yeah. So
Correct.
it does maybe it's also why it came out swinging, no? Nagkakaroon kagad ng online exchanges, online word of war. But Professor, what do you mean when you say that South China Sea is his topmost priority? What is his end goal here?
Well, his end goal is to find a way how to reach out with an agreement with the Philippines in order not to make the South China Sea the barometer of overall bilateral ties between the Philippines and China, because the ambassador has other projects for the Philippines. He has projects to contribute to our infrastructure development, to our poverty alleviation, our disaster management, flood control. He has many, even garbage collection, even in urban planning. He has a lot of things in mind, but unfortunately, according to him, it's very difficult to implement all these issues because the two countries are so focused on the South China Sea. So that's why his priority is to de-escalate the current tension now happening between the Philippines and China on the South China Sea issue, and find ways on how to cooperate in other fields, while at the same time the two parties are finding ways to settle their disputes.
So, sir, but let me also look at it from a different point of view. In a lot of ways, kasi diplomats are like firefighters. They're also there to douse the flames that have been caused by the Home Office or by other branches of the government. I get what you mean. It's time to de-escalate, and it's good that we have a new diplomat here who has experience with the U.S. But would that also have an impact, a significant impact on Chinese policies, for example, in the West Philippine Sea, and how it asserts itself? For example, the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy and the Chinese Coast Guard, and how they implement their policies in the West Philippine Sea.
That is why we need to really exchange views on our respective national policies on the issue, and at the same time exchange views on how the respective law enforcement authorities are mandated to implement their respective national policies. So we need not only diplomats talking, but we also need law enforcement authorities of their respective governments to also talk, so that they will avoid unintended violent encounter at sea. So that's it. But what I would like to emphasize here, Ed, and
Yes, sir.
Reg, that when it comes to the issue of the South China Sea, there are a lot of misunderstanding on the nature of dispute. That is why we're having this kind of confusions and a lot of disinformation, because many people, including politicians, they don't know the two major features of the South China Sea dispute. There are two types of disputes in the South China Sea: territorial disputes and maritime jurisdictional conflicts. When it comes to territorial disputes, many claimants are pursuing their sovereignty on the ownership of land features. So that's territorial dispute. Who owns the land features in the South China Sea? But at the same time, there's also another issue: who has the right on the use of water in the South China
Economic.
Sea? So that is
Yes, sir.
maritime jurisdictional conflict. So when it comes to our position, dyan po tayong nagkakalituhan. Halimbawa, yung West Philippine Sea, atin to. Bakit nagkakalituhan yun? Kasi under international law, you cannot own a water. Under international law, the UNCLOS and even existing international law only provide sovereign states 12 nautical miles of
12
territorial.
nautical miles.
So yan po, may sovereignty po tayo dyan.
Mm.
So atin po yan. Atin po yan yung 12 nautical miles. Pero yung exclusive economic zone, hindi po yan sakop ng state ownership. But
Yes, sir.
we were
Yes, sir.
given exclusive economic rights. But at
Yes,
the
sir.
same time, kasi very loose yung term natin ng atin eh. So, nasa atin yung karapatan. So, yun ang context po niyan, na sa atin yung karapatan sa pag-utilize ng waters dyan. Ngayon, ang
Professor.
usapin ngayon dito, go ahead.
May isa pa siyang sinabi. Sinabi niya, since you mentioned that, no, yung territorial waters, 12 nautical miles, sabi niya laging nagiging issue dito pag dumadaan yung barko nila outside our 12 nautical miles. Sabi niya, under international law, lahat ng barko daw doon has a right to innocent passage. Tama ba yun?
Opo.
Kaya ginagawa daw malaking
Tama
issue
po.
dito, pero actually, pwede naman daw silang dumaan doon kahit hindi magpaalam sa atin.
Opo, meron po
Dahil
tayong
it's a right of innocent passage. Yun ang sinabi niya sa amin.
Oo.
Tama ba yun?
Totoo po yan. Opo, meron pong right of innocent passage yung mga coastal foreign
Yes.
vessels. Pero ang term dyan, innocent passage.
Yes, innocent.
Walang malintention. You're just passing,
Oo nga.
nakikiraan ka lang. Nakikiraan ka lang, pero kung dumadaan ka doon para mag-conduct ng economic activities or mag-conduct ng military operations or any type of military activities, that's problematic.
Eh kung
Pero
dumadaan lang yung
innocent
Coast
passage
Guard
lang,
nila,
walang
halimbawa
problema.
ganyan, nagpapatrol sila eh. Innocent
Iba
passage
naman
ba yun?
po,
Yung Coast Guard
patrol
nila,
is not an
remember, is
innocent
under their
passage.
their military command.
Opo. Ang patrol po, maritime patrol is not an innocent passage. Yan po ay active
okay.
po yan. Active operations po yan. Di yan po yung innocent passage. Kasi nagpapatrol ka po eh. When you say you are if you're patrolling your water, that means you are making sure that your waters are protected. You're protecting your waters.
Okay.
Pero I think what we need to understand now, in the context of the debate with Senator Marcoleta na gusto niya ipamigay na yung Pag-asa Island, dahil sinasabi niya na the Pag-asa Island and other islands near to it are outside of our exclusive economic zone.
Well, I
This is
mean,
true.
that is kind of true, but and I take your point, Professor, that there is still a lot of confusion out there between territorial ownership and maritime jurisdiction, and we try our best. Honestly,
Yeah.
we try our best to make that distinction as much as we can, but also at the same time. At the same time, hindi ba the root of all of this tension is because of China's 9-dashed line that became a 10-dash line that became at some point an 11-dash line. Whatever the figure is, there is a dash line that covers about 90% of the area south from them, which they call the South China Sea, right? Which is what caused the tensions as well what's caused conflict with other countries as well. And because of this so-called 9-dash line, China has claimed all of the resources, islands, and maritime zones, claiming all of these as historic rights. So hindi ba yun naman talaga
we
ang root
challenge that.
ng issue nito?
Yeah, we are challenging that. We are challenging that because that claim of China is very excessive, and the Philippines is not alone in challenging China for that kind of excessive claim. So, I have no issue with that. And in fact, we challenge also that kind of excessive claim with China. Now, China has that excessive claim, and the law provides the Philippines rights over our water. So apparently, there is a bone of contention on who has the right on the water and who owns the land features. Now, let's settle it. And under international law, we tried our best to put it under international arbitration that China does not respect. Now, what's the other option left for the Philippines and China? So I think that's now the subject of our discussion with China now. How to move on so that we can avoid this untoward incident to happen again, okay, between our two countries. Oo, oo. So ngayon, ang gusto ko lang ipaliwanag din dito na although Pag-asa Island is not part of our exclusive economic zone, we declare that as an inherent part of our territory per Presidential Decree 1596 in 1978. So, yun ang dapat nating panghawakan. Okay? Na we declare that as part of our territory. So, when it comes to the land features in the in the Kalayaan Island Group, we own it. At binilang ko nga po kung ilan yung land features na dineclare natin na part ng ating territory. 54 land features po yan. Including Pag-asa Island, Patag Island, and kung ano pa mga islands yan. Meron tayong yung 9 occupied features po natin. Ngayon, nagkaroon lang tayo ng konting problema. Kasi under PD 1596, we have this octagonal shape line, may mga waters doon. Ang sagot ngayon diyan, yung mga waters ba within that octagonal line or polygon, kung ano yung square line na yun, atin yon. So we clarify that in the international arbitration. So clarify po natin yan na
Yes. We did.
Na may mga rights tayo, exclusive economic zone tayo, pero yung mga islands na yon, ang problema, dineclare kasi ng international arbitration na walang islands rocks lahat ang features sa South China Sea.
Yes, sir.
So ang ginawa, okay, assuming na rocks lang yung Pag-asa Island is still entitled to 12 nautical miles territorial sea.
Mm-hmm.
So wala tayong ginigive up, wala tayong ginigive up na territory. Ang nangyari lang because of international arbitration, yung water na-clarify kung ano ang extent ng water na pwedeng i-claim ng Pag-asa. And that is 12 nautical miles territorial sea.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Professor, since we are chairing ASEAN, we are working on a code of conduct. Yun ang tinutulak ngayon ng China, yung code of conduct. Pero yung iba, nag-aalala kapag tapos, finally, after so many years, parang magiging effectively legitimizing the occupation of China of all those features in the South China Sea. Anong tingin nyo doon sa observation na yun?
Very, very tricky kasi yung current discussions ngayon on the COC. I am closely watching the negotiation on the conclusion of the Code of Conduct. Tagal-tagal na, 20 years ko na pong binabantayan yan. Very tricky kasi under the current discussion, ito yung mga latest discussion po namin sa Malaysia kasi bago mag-share ang Pilipinas, I went to Malaysia 3 times, talking to their experts there and counterparts. Ang direction ng discussion po ngayon na irespeto yung status quo.
Kaya nga.
Halimbawa, under our situation, we occupy 9 land features. So dapat i-respect yun. And then Vietnam occupies 21 land features in the Kalayaan Island Group. And China occupies 5 or 7 and Malaysia 5. So kumbaga, okupado mo na yon, hindi ka napapaalisin.
Kaya nga.
Pero
paano yung panganiban?
What about
Binigay
artificial
sa atin yun
islands?
We have sovereign rights there under the arbitration ruling.
Yeah.
Hindi ba kailangan, if we are insisting on respect for the arbitration ruling, dapat pangatawanan natin yon dun sa panganiban.
Okay. Ang arbitration ruling po ay hindi po siya nag-rule on the question of territorial ownership.
Hindi naman territorial. Sovereign rights yung binigay sa atin.
Opo, yun nga. Ipaglalaban yung water. So, yun nga. Ngayon, ang problema, may existing territorial claim yung ibang parties like Vietnam, Malaysia, and China. At ang argument nila that the land features they occupy is also entitled to 12 nautical miles territorial sea.
Hindi naman land dyan,
Ngayon,
risk
ang
yun.
problema. Yun nga, may problem. Ang problema kasi, when it comes to China, China does not respect and recognize the result of the
Yes,
arbitration.
exactly. Which
And
brings
therefore,
us...
they regard land features that they occupy as islands. Kaya ang tawag nga, Wangyang Island, Nansha Island. And according to them, their definition of islands are entitled to 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone. So, expansive, very excessive. So,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Kasama ba dun yung
that we need to
artificial
settle.
island? Kasi alam naman ng buong mundo na artificial yung island na yan.
Artificial islands under international law cannot claim a 200 nautical miles exclusive economic
so
zone.
cannot.
Kaya territorial
Okay.
sea lang ang pwede niyang i-claim dyan. 12 nautical miles of
Yeah.
territorial sea.
Yeah.
But ano ngayon ang what is the current status now of the negotiation? What is the good thing about the current status of the negotiation now? All parties now have an understanding that if they conclude the code of conduct in the South China Sea, it will be legal and substantive. And it will be in accordance with UNCLOS and other existing international laws. So, ang magkagandaan dyan, nagkaroon na ng agreement na it must be in accordance with UNCLOS and other existing
Yes.
international laws.
But
So,
that-
legal
yeah.
and binding and substantive.
But that is a big if. Like, as you said, we've been waiting 20 years for the code of conduct, and one of the sticking points, exactly as you said, is whether or not it will be legally binding. But unfortunately, we have run out of time, so we have to leave that there. Thanks for talking to us, Maritime Affairs Security Expert, Professor Rommel Banlaoi. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
Thank
you so
you,
much.
Professor.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.